Are you a one marshmallow right now or two marshmallows in a few minutes kind of guy? Hi, my name is Chantal. I'm a speaker, a teacher, a coach, and a mom, and my goal with this channel is to provide you with access to resources, tools, perspectives, and ideas that you can use to create your best life. And at the moment, we're talking about habits. It's based on this book, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and in the last couple of videos, we've learned what the habit loop looks like. We know that the golden rule of habit change is to shift the routine, because habits cannot be eliminated, they can only be overwritten. We also know about keystone habits and how choosing the right one to try to shift can have positive effects that kind of domino into different areas of your life. In the last video, we talked about how we can use that craving to both stimulate the new habit we're trying to set and to motivate us when we get to difficult moments. But we ended that video by considering willpower, what its role might be in habit change. And that's what we're talking about today. So willpower as a resource is what that first marshmallow reference was all about. You may be familiar with the famous experiment wherein children were offered 2 marshmallows if they could wait a few minutes. And the intention of this study was to identify whether students who were able to delay gratification would experience willpower positively in other areas of their lives. In the book, Charles Duhigg talks about a couple of studies in which researchers sought to really unpack this a little further. And the results have direct and empowering implications for anyone who's looking to leverage habit and willpower to make changes in their life. In one study, participants were told that the purpose of the study was to identify taste perceptions and their impact. Participants in a room were divided into 2 groups. On a table were 2 plates, one bearing delicious chocolate chip cookies and the other filled with raw radishes. The first half were told to ignore the radishes and only eat the chocolate chip cookies. The other group were told they had to only eat the radishes. These groups were then asked to complete a simple puzzle. They had to take a pencil and trace a geometric puzzle on a piece of paper and get successfully to the end. But the trick is that this puzzle was actually impossible to solve. Researchers hypothesized that those who had expended their willpower resisting the cookies and being forced to eat radishes would have a harder time persevering and persisting at this impossible task. And that was found to be true. Those who'd had the cookies were able to cheerfully approach the challenge when they found a misstep or reached a dead end, go back to the beginning and try again. And on average, it took them 19 minutes before they rang the bell, signaling that they had had enough and could not continue. The radish eaters, however, muttered, complained, grumbled, talked about how pointless everything was, and were not able to hang in there for as long. The results of this are really interesting. Power is indeed a resource that is finite. What does that mean for us? Well, if you have an important task that you need to accomplish later in the day, studying for an exam, preparing for an important meeting, then you'll want to conserve it earlier on. So that means that you'd have to be circumspect about what you choose to engage with. This is a perfect illustration of picking your battles. You may not want to spend all of your time and energy on an engagement or project or frustrating situation that is not super important to the outcomes you're looking to achieve that day, because you know that it's going to deplete the reserves of willpower you're going to need to do something difficult later on. Fascinating stuff, right? A further study referenced later in the book in the same section illustrates something that I'm going to speak about in the final video. Researchers identified a group of people who it could be assumed would have the hardest time shifting or taking on new habits. These were patients with an average age of 68 who had recently undergone hip or knee surgery, a painful surgery that requires an immediate effort to get rehabilitation where it needs to be. So even though it's extremely painful to move after surgery, the requirements for a full recovery are that you get on your feet as quickly as possible. Not easy to do. The researchers in this study provided participants with a booklet that detailed the series of actions and appointments that were required for their rehab, and at the back of the book a few empty pages. And the ask was simple: please write out your goals for the week on these pages. What was found is that those who had written goals generally did much better. They achieved mobility as much as 3 times faster than the group that did not write anything on those blank pages. And in investigating what was written in those pages, an interesting discovery that's also relevant and helpful for us was made. The patients who had the most success were the most detailed about what it was they were going to do. For instance, today I'm going to walk to the bus stop to meet my wife, which was one patient's goal. But those who were most successful had gone into detail around that. They were saying where they were going to walk, what they were going to do. And on close inspection, the most successful participants wrote out goals for how they would handle the tough points. So when the going got tough, what would they do? For example, as soon as I put my feet on the floor, I'm going to stand up. because that's when the pain will be most intense. Those tough points, those moments of difficulty are called inflection points. And planning for how to respond to them and making those responses as automatic as possible can be the deciding factor in how you handle, especially if you have a high-stress job or goals that require you to get into really challenging situations that draw on your willpower all the time, can be the differentiator in how successful you are at making that shift and making those positive actions happen. And in the next video, that's what we're going to talk about: planning for inflection points and making habit automatic, so that we can leverage the benefits highlighted by participants in studies like this one and make our habits automatic, positive, powerful, impactful, and get us where we want to go. All right, I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you are still as engaged in habit shifting as I am, and I'll share some of the outcomes of what it is I've been tinkering with since I started this series at the end of it. Hope that you found this useful. As always, if you know someone else who would, go ahead and share. Leave a like, leave a comment, and until I see you next time, stay safe.